Welcome to another episode of the Winter Moon Podcast. In this episode, we'll join Nathan, John, and David as they discuss making strong choices about upgrades for competitive Legion lists. So we were having a discussion before the show about the new upgrades, and Nathan brought up sort of a tactical point, which is what do we look for as people who are interested in building competitive lists in Legion? What do we look for in terms of threshold? So there's a certain, like, maybe a test that an upgrade has to pass, or like a certain quality that it has to meet. And I'm wondering how we all feel about this, and if we can enlighten the listeners maybe about our thoughts about this subject. And I'll unleash you, Nathan, and we'll go from there.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it depends a lot on the kind of upgrade we're talking about, right? So one that comes to mind, and maybe we could start here, is upgrades on focus pieces. I think what you're looking for in your upgrades is something, with the focus piece, you've got something that you want it to do. And your upgrades, you want to pick upgrades that make it do that thing better. And that sounds kind of silly. But for example, and this is like a really like 101 example, but on your op Luke, there's a reason that the most common upgrades taken are like push, burst, and maybe debatably less so now, but Jedi Mind Trick is because his goal is he wants to get in there. He wants to control an area, right? So I mean, push, right, is going to be letting you control an area. Burst is going to let you get in there, and Jedi Mind Trick lets you really punish people with serve, right? Or his second 1-pip command card. I would be less inclined if someone were making an op Luke list, and this is not very common, but to say someone wanted to stick hope on there, like, well, I really got to deal with suppression. Hope's only 3 points, and it's Inspire 1. I'm gonna stick it on my op Luke. It's like, well, op Luke's a really expensive piece. And Hope, while Inspire is great, and certainly Rebels, if anyone, kind of need extra Inspire, that does not help Op Luke do his job. And he's really important, and it's really important that he does his job. So whatever you're giving him, it needs to help him do that job.
It's even, that one specifically is even counterproductive to his job, right? Hope requires you to be within range 2 of your allies to inspire them. He's not going to be there, like, after round 1 or 2.
Right. Because he's operative, so he could be on a completely different side of the board than your core, potentially.
Yeah, I was thinking about, as you were talking, there's combos and non-bows, right? And so as John brought up, this idea that, like, I'm going to put Hope on Op Luke, right? Hope is reliant on your friends being near you. Hope is maybe not the best use of a force slot for a character that has Master of the Force. It's only Inspire 1, which, yeah, sometimes one suppression makes a difference, but maybe you'd rather have a different source of Inspire in your list. Maybe you'd like to free Op Luke from doing that job and give it to a different unit that's better at it, like Leia, for example. She just happens to be, she can't take Hope, but as a purpose for the unit, right? Op Luke's purpose is not to support his allies necessarily. Op Luke's purpose is to go to an area and lock it down, be a sort of a magnet for your opponent's ire, be a controlling dominant piece on the board. He's not really in that role of support, so you're not going to see like force barrier on him necessarily. You're not going to see force guidance on him necessarily. Rebels don't benefit from Rebel. I think force guidance is a massive non-bo because Rebels are like the most surgingest faction in the game when we look at their surge charts. So that's just another metric too, is like you kind of view it in terms of the unit. You could also view it like in terms of the army. So I think a great example of this is Barrier on Yoda. You already have a very highly defensive army in Republic. Barrier is often helpful because it prevents Pierce, the stuff that undermines your defenses, prevents Pierce from going through because it just cancels the piercing hits. So there's a lot of good there. That's definitely like a combination because it's accentuating something the army is already doing. Yoda's already kind of hanging back with the group because he's getting his courage bubble on that army. He's supporting it with tokens from luminous beings.
He's guidancing
stuff. He's already nearby, so Barrier is sort of is a more natural fit. So in terms of like So when we look at upgrades, we're looking not just at the power level and purpose of the unit they go on to. We're also looking at how it fits in with the rest of the army. There's kind of that holistic look. And sometimes it's better to just not put upgrades on a unit at all. And I think a really good example of this is a build that I use for General Grievous, and is becoming a lot more popular. In fact, the Holocron circuit in Spain released a list of the like top ranking CIS lists, and I actually was really shocked that the Grievous build that I use was there, which is just into the fray and just prepared supplies and nothing else to keep Grievous at a clean 139. Because if you upgrade him any
Such a clean
further,
number.
yeah,
I'm kidding.
it's a
The
great
worst number ever.
I know, 139. Yeah,
That might be prime.
I don't know.
Sorry.
But when I say clean, what I mean is cheap in terms of like
Okay.
what in terms of like the output for what you're putting
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah.
And so if you upgraded him anymore, you would get what I would call upgrade bloat, which is just like a classic example of upgrade bloat would be a grenade on a rebel trooper. They're
Sure.
almost never going to be in range to use said grenades. There's maybe one exception,
Mm-hmm.
the frag grenade on the Z6.
Mm-hmm.
There's one exception,
Or the
but
SX13.
or the SX13, yeah. But for the most part, like you're probably not going to get use out of it.
Yeah, okay, can I run with your grenade example, Dave?
Yeah,
Because you
absolutely.
just brought up this is like a great illustration of that, like the grenade slot, right? The
Mhm.
reason we say there's an exception for the frag grenade on the SX, and I would personally would say almost more the SX13 than the
Mhm.
Z6.
Yeah.
The reason I would say that is, what is the SX13 trying to do? It's trying to do a lot of damage at a low cost. It's like the Rebel Trooper base is 40 points. SX13 is 13 points. So you're talking 53 points for something that's 5 wounds with agile and nimble. And it throws some dice at range 3, which is cool. It throws 8 dice at range 2. So you really are trying to get it close anyway. And so then the frag grenades, it's only 5 points more. So, and that obviously adds up if you have several, but it's not a huge cost in the scheme of things, right? And if you can close the distance to range 1, it actually gets a lot more dangerous. It goes from 4 red, 2 or 4 black, 2 red, 2 white to 3 black, 3 red, 2 white surge crit. So and it also gains more utility, as you know, if you need some extra impact, because that has impact 1, but then you get surge to crit with impact 1, so it's like doing even more, right? And so that's a good fit on the SX13, because it's enhancing the game plan that it already has, which is run in, get close, do damage, hopefully, kill something that's more expensive than you were. It's why I'm less likely to say, I would maybe be less likely to put it on something like the Z6. I do see the use case, because you throw a lot of dice, and so surge crit helps. But your Z6s probably are not, the real thing isn't really getting that close. If you're investing in a Z6, I assume your plan is to play mostly at range 3 with that unit. Otherwise, why not just do the SX13 for cheaper and better dice, right? So, yeah, so that's like a really interesting one. And then you certainly would never stick a frag grenade on like Death Troopers, right? It's like, why would you do that?
Right. They have a kit that already enables them to do what that upgrade is
They already
trying
have
to
surge
do.
hit.
Right, they
Yeah.
already have surge hit, and you kind of want Death Troopers a lot of times at range 4. Is a
Mhm.
lot of kind of what, and they have flex to close range,
Don't
but
they
that's not really
literally
what they're
have
about.
frag grenade launchers? Isn't
Yeah,
that
they
what
have
the
a
thing is
blast
called?
configuration on the other side.
Yeah, yeah,
It
and
might be just
canonically
called
they don't
frag
even
in
need
it.
it.
Yeah, they have a
Yeah,
grenade launcher on the back of the
Throws reds.
E11D, I think, or whatever it's called. The configuration is a
Yeah, I'll find it here shortly.
yeah. So
yeah.
so that's kind of a good high overview.
Grenade launcher.
Yeah, E11D grenade launcher.
They
I
don't
think that
need
sounds
frag
right.
grenades canonically.
Which is a great design choice by the design team. So that's kind of a high overview of like the upgrade discussion. I don't want to close it out yet because there's still a couple more things that I'm thinking of as we're sort of getting along here. So being just having a high amount of prejudice towards the inclusion of certain upgrades, it just is, and I don't mean being maybe prejudicial is not the right word. Being very deliberate and very selective. I think selective is the proper word here. It's important to be selective about what upgrades you include because again,
Intentional.
you
About it.
intentional and selective. Yeah, you have a very limited budget. I'm finding as I build lists these days, I want to make my list do a lot more than the points allow me to do. So I have to be very selective about what I choose to include and what I
Mhm.
choose not to include. And upgrades are a major source of like I said a few minutes ago, cost bloat in a unit. You're always looking to make some sort of cuts. I think some of the best lists have done a really good job of cutting out that upgrade bloat and are very. I don't know. There's probably no relationship here, but I'm in this mode where it's like if it looks clean on the page, you're probably in a good place, because there's certainly that tendency to want everything and not be able to get it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're looking at your list and you have a ton of little, or maybe call them luxury upgrades, things like emergency transponders, targeting scopes, offensive push. These are all things that are nice. They're good to have if you're at a point where you have the points. They can take certain units and they can enable them and or make them better. But there are some exceptions. Generally, these upgrades are not required to make a unit function. And if there's another unit in your list, say you're trying to run more of a gun line and you have a naked core that doesn't have a heavy on it that maybe should, but you have in your special forces slot, you have a lot of these sort of extra add-on upgrades. It might be more worth the points to cut some of the fluff and get that heavy weapon on your stormtrooper, because if you the intention with the list is that you want your core shooting and you have a stormtrooper that doesn't have a heavy on it, it's not going to serve the function that it's intended to serve. Versus if you have some death troopers that have one extra upgrade that gives them an aim token, even if it's across multiple death troopers, that's nice, but it's not might not be required to make the thing function.
Yeah, there's a certain threshold that units can cross also when they're given certain upgrades. I'm always looking when I build my list for that what I would call an outsized benefit. Like there are some upgrades that have huge upsides on certain units, like Into the Fray on Magna Guard, for example. Massive upside. It has no cap. Like so any number of units activating at range 1 can create a surge, which, is probably a pretty good argument for it not to be 4 points. Sorry everybody.
Hey, calm
But
down there.
but
Dave's going for nerfs.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get it nerfed because I abuse the hell out of it.
They
So
nerfed our deflect, and now you want to take
and now I
away
want to
our
take it into
only
the fray.
melee saving grace?
They nerf deflect,
They did
In
nerf
kinda.
melee.
deflect.
In melee.
In melee, they nerfed
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
In
buffed it
melee,
and
yeah,
nerfed it. No,
yeah.
that was
yeah.
not an overall nerfed.
Yeah, I gotcha, I gotcha.
In
Yeah.
Well,
melee.
I've always felt like they did nerf it because now it's like I don't have a choice. I have to shoot this Jedi regardless. So now any shot I take on a Jedi is now an upside relative to all the other
I
shots.
don't think everyone has that opinion though.
I know.
I don't think everyone not everyone makes that decision that they have to shoot at the Jedi now. Like
Hmm.
a lot of people are just too afraid to still because deflect's always on.
It
Yeah,
definitely depends.
yeah.
Like, is there yeah, it's definitely a cost benefit thing. We're somehow
I'm not
in our
saying they
epic,
should or
yeah,
shouldn't. I'm just
right.
saying they're not. My
Yeah.
opponents have not been.
Can I play against those people? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Play
Just
against
kidding.
me.
Just march my Jedi down, not
Yeah.
get shot. No, it definitely depends. I mean, we're somehow. What's funny is when we recorded the episode about Jedi, we were always leaving the topic, and now we're at the next video, and we're somehow back to this topic of
Yeah.
playing against Jedi, which is funny. It's like, yeah, it depends. Like sometimes you want to shoot them, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. So sort of to rope us back towards the upgrade discussion, just like I'm always looking for those big benefits, and tenacity on Wookiees, for example, definitely a great benefit. Tenacity on Tauntauns, a great example,
Mhm.
because hey, this unit suddenly is now a threat. Like for Tauntaun specifically, this unit is now still a threat, even if it's reduced to one model. Because guess what? I put a dice back because of tenacity. Or and I mean, like targeting scopes on Black Sun, for example. It's making an already dangerous unit even more dangerous.
Right,
So
when it's going to give you value
mhm,
because you're getting an aim every turn, right?
exactly,
I think
exactly.
value is another really good thing to consider when you're thinking about an upgrade. Is how many points am I spending on this, and am I getting a return that's at least equivalent to that number of points?
Right.
So, an obvious, a relatively obvious example is like, say something has a training slot and a comm slot and it's not something that you're ordering all the time. Okay, offensive push, 6 points, give you an aim. You can recover it if that's a thing that you're doing. Emergency transponders can give you an aim or a dodge, or it can remove a suppression and it's 4 points. It expends, so you can't reuse it. So this is like great example. If you have something, have some kind of a mechanic that's going to be giving your unit free recovers, then maybe offensive push is something you look at because, oh, I might get 2 or 3 uses out of this, and then it's good value. If you know you're only going to use it once, whatever the upgrade is, emergency transponders is better value. It's 4 points. And so you want to think about those synergies with the upgrades you have and think, okay, which one is going to be the most bang for the buck.
Yeah, it requires you to kind of head sim a little bit the order of operations. So as we're talking, I was thinking about emergency transponder on say like a flame spider, for example. It adds 4 points to the cost of a unit that already wants to be cheap, and you're getting an aim one time, and then it's like, okay, well the dice are fairly good quality. Like sometimes, like if I get a flame shot, sometimes those reds can miss, and so that's when it becomes
Yeah.
really important for the transponder to happen, because I'll get that aimed flame shot. But a lot of the times it's sort of like the reds will hit and the whites will miss. And then it's like, oh, what's the and one could figure out the ratio there. I tend to just intuit it. It's a lot easier just to intuit it rather than do all the math. Sorry if that offends you, Nathan, because you're a math professor, man. So I'm sorry. I just go by intuition most of the time. Sometimes I deliberately math it out. Like for example, electro binoculars being 8 points for one aim versus transponders on 2 units for 2 aims. This could
Right.
certainly be a way to math it. And then comparing, like, say, targeting scopes versus electro binoculars elsewhere in the list. How many rerolls are you actually going to get over the course of the game? Like those are numbers that you can calculate. That's something that you can pretty easily do, and something that I do because it's low hanging fruit mathematically for my pea brain. But that's just something I have to navigate. So
Mm.
another thing too that I'm thinking about here with upgrades is, like you say, expends. So sometimes those recoverable upgrades are only as good as an expend because of the opportunity cost. And like I said before, one has to sort of think through the order of operations as you go physically playing your game. So it's like, okay, on turn one, my Luke or my unit here is probably not going to get any use out of this because it's the early game. We're just moving on the board. Nothing's really happening. Okay, turn two, maybe I get some use. Now turn three, I have to make a choice. Do I recover this? Is it too late to recover this? Am I gonna have to move? Does the objective demand me moving, for example? So there's kind of this one has to really think through the process here and not just slap it on there and go, that seems good. That's not enough in a competitive setting.
Yeah, yeah. I think something it kind of related to what you're saying, but a little bit of a tangent is you right thinking about through the order of operations and thinking about synergies and upgrades that go together. So, and I was thinking about this because of upgrades that recover. So this is a take that I don't know how hot this take is. This may yeah, break against the consensus a little bit, but on Mall, for example, Shadow Collective or CIS, probably Shadow Collective is a little bit of a better example. I think most people would take push and burst. I think I'm really in the camp that I would take push and choke. And the reason I feel that way is because you have that Juyo mastery where you're getting 3 actions. Very often, you're going to be spending that to recover so that you can get force pushback. Burst, in terms of value, really what it's going to do is it's probably going to net you at most 1 extra attack. Like I think that's probably what you're going to get out of burst with Maul is maybe because he's infiltrating, right? So that first round, infiltrate, burst, force push someone in, then swing at them. That's like the cool thing that Maul can do. You might not get that if you don't have burst. You're fairly less likely to get that first attack. But choke over the next 4 rounds is going to give you 4 more wounds over the course of the rest of the game. I'm simplifying a bit, right? But just thinking about value, I think where I lean towards choke is that you can put those wounds in really impactful spots. It is so valuable with the Sith to be able to, if you're in some unit that's already activated, which is where you want to be, you swing at them, you leave them on 1 wound, and then the next turn, choke. And then you still have your push. You don't
Mhm.
have to spend your push getting rid of some single body that you also then need to spend an attack with on your core finishing off. Those single wounds matter so much for Sith, or sometimes it's, maybe it's near the end of a round and you're just trying to be chaotic and do as much damage as possible in a scoring round. You swing one unit you kill entirely. Maybe there's another activation floating around that's got one unit on it, and you can choke it. Like, choking it's so much. Yeah, it's 4 wounds, but you can put the wounds in really valuable places. And the reason that pushes it over the top for me is the fact that every time Maul is going to take a recover to get his pushback, he's also getting choked. Now, this is all not to say that burst would be a bad idea. There's a lot of upsides to taking burst, but that would be my preference. I would take choke because of the synergy and because of the value.
So for those listening, what Nathan just did there, and this is a great example of what we're talking about. Nathan has a pre-planned sequence in his head going into building the list, and that's completely fine. That's what we want, because that level of intentionality for taking upgrades in your list, that's what you're looking for when you go into building a list and deciding what to take. Nathan knows that he has some built-in recovers, so it's like, how do I squeeze the most mileage out of my recovers? And not only that, how do I give myself effectively extra actions because I'm not stuck in melee with some battle droid or some, clone trooper that's like in my way, and I just can't get out in time because I don't have the choke that would have enabled me to get my 2 moves without withdrawing and leaving that other unit on the board still, which is even worse, right? Choke lets me pick up that extra value. Now, can you tell everybody in my meta to stop playing vehicles, because I can't force choke a freaking vehicle? But I will say, I will say that if you're in that situation that Nathan describes, which happens fairly frequently, then there's a lot of value there to taking choke. And another thing that was kind of buried in what Nathan said was burst plus infiltrate. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Those are both like really strong. But did Maul actually need the mobility help? Not conclusive on that, because infiltrate is a big boost to your mobility, because you get to start at the front of your friendly territory rather than coming on the board like everybody else has to. So, there's a lot of factors at play, and one has to, as one becomes more experienced in the game, there's like an ability that kind of arises where you can go through, you can sort of imagine the sequence occurring, and the ability to like hold that in your head and like imagine that occurring is super valuable. It's a skill that I've had to learn. When I was new at the game, I had almost no wargaming experience at all, and I never had that ability until I played for about 6 months, and then I realized, oh, if I get good at remembering the things that happen in my games, then I'm able to reconstruct after the fact these sequences that occur, and then envision sequences in different games that could hypothetically occur later. That's a big step, I think, towards like I don't know, maturing might be too strong a word, but it's sort of like the skill growing, right? As a player, right? Your skills will grow, and that sort of being able to sort of see it before it happens because you've had the experience of it, the over the board experience, and that's just sort of a testament to like that over the board experience mattering a lot, because your muscles start to remember it. And sometimes you'll do something, and I've played this game now for 6 years. I'll do stuff and I'll be like, wow, my muscle memory saved me because I put myself out of range for this other bad thing that could have happened. And it's like I didn't even think about it going on.
Totally intentional, right?
Yeah, completely intentional, right? Just completely out of the blue. It's like, oh, I the best example of this is people snapping you off a point with a melee. That's the best example, because that's the sort of thing that'll happen to you once and you'll never forget it.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, you never forget it.
Hopefully.
But in your head, it's like there's something in you that's like, okay, I know I need to protect against this, but it may not be conscious. It's like a subconscious thing.
This is just how I do this move now.
It's
This
just
is
how I
how
do
I
this
move
move
towards the POI.
because it's safe, right? And it's safe, and it's like it's got some great
Good practice.
yeah, it's good practice. It's got some great reasons to do it in a certain way. Now, that's not to say it couldn't backfire in some situations, but again, we're talking like deep theory here. We're like way in the weeds. But this is kind of like what happens, I think, at sort of as one gets towards the top tables, is that they start to develop this sort of head simming.
I think the one thing that keeps rattling around in my mind as we're talking about what we look for in upgrades, really shown for me, not in all of the new upgrades, but in a good handful of them. And that is looking for like vacuums in, or like things that are filling a void in my play. Like I'm playing Luke and I really, really want an order right now, or I want to have an orders for Han Solo Zero Pip, but I want my training slot to be something else. Well, along comes Trusted Agent. Right. That's offloading that card. So now someone else can do that and I can have my cake and eat it too. Another great upgrade that does that from this new pack, Strike Team Leader. Units like Clan Ren, really hungry for tokens. They want dodges for nimble, they want aims for lethal and long shot, and they only have 2 actions and 1 retinue token. This gives them an opportunity to get another one of those for free. They still kind of want a 3rd token, but now you're at 2 out of 3 tokens, right? So that's filling a void. Extra supplies is another one that I think really fills a void. Playing units like Sabine that have these awesome cards, like the combat shield and the grappling whip line thing.
Grappling
Electro
line, I
grappling
think.
line.
Grappling
Yeah,
line,
yeah, that's it.
Great card, but I hate using it because Sabine's only got 2 actions and I don't want to recover to use it. But take extra supplies and all of a sudden you get to use it twice.
Those are really good examples. A game I played recently, I had some Death Troopers, and then I had Strike Team Leader on Callus, and the Death Troopers had the extra supplies, and it was really great because Death Troopers kind of have to have it, and they're a little similar to Tristan Wren being in a Mando squad. It's kind of like you kind of need to get an aim on Death Troopers to get their full value because they have that precise too. And the extra supplies is great because you a lot of times want to be able to take multiple range 4 shots with them in the first few rounds of the game while still moving. And so, yeah, it's like it opened up that option. It's like you're talking about like filling a void. With Death Troopers, I can come out and I can take the first opening round 4 shot, and then, say it's the next round and I want to be able to shoot and then move behind a rock. I can't. I had to choose. Either I'm going to recover and shoot and then sit there like an idiot and lose my Death Troopers, which are expensive, or I'm just going to have to move behind a rock and recover and then I don't get to shoot. But then extra supplies lets me do that. It lets me do the thing that I wasn't able to do before, and it's only 5 points. So yeah, these upgrades can sort of like they can unlock things in your units.
Yeah.
So I love that point because that again feeds back to sort of what I think is developing into like sort of the base of the discussion, which is like you're looking at unit economy fundamentally, and these upgrades, if they're good, and I put good in air quotes, if they're good, they'll make you more economical, and they'll do it in a way that results in what I've come to call friction. Sometimes you like Nathan's Death Trooper example, for speaking of that, I no longer have to make this choice, so I'll move, shoot, extra supplies, shoot, move. So I'll get a very nice, neat last first, and then I don't have to make a choice on the 3rd round that's then detrimental, or even the 2nd round that's detrimental. And I think if I can envision a world where like the perfect Legion player knows the economy of all their units and is monitoring that situation across all 10, 12 activations. Sometimes it can be even less. Like, for example, if you're Ollie, world champ, former world champ, and play your 6th activation Gar, right? Suddenly it becomes a lot easier to manage because there's only 6 units that you have to worry about. But again, like, that ability to be aware of and economize fully is just really, really important for playing well. And upgrades that are good are the ones that enable that to happen. And for example, you can pair. We'll continue on expend or extra supplies, right? It expends once, but you attach that to other sources of economy. So, for example, Sabine grappling line. You also have Spirit. Is it Spirit of Rebellion? It's the 2-pip recover. Symbol of Rebellion. Thank you. Yeah. So you'll have a grapple line, you'll have a free recover grapple, and then you'll have a expend grapple. That's 3 turns of immobilize if you want it.
Mobilize 2.
Immobilize 2, which is freezing a range 2 unit.
Probably suppression too.
Yeah, and
I think it's like 2 immobilize and 2 suppression.
Yeah. So you that's nasty, right? You can basically freeze a unit in place doing that. And I think with the extra supplies, Sabine will get a move at least once. In fact, she might be able to move twice now that I think about it, because the recover is free.
Each time she can move.
Each time she can move. Each time she needs to do it. She can move, freeze, move, freeze, and just continue doing that. And seems like a really strong tactic if you paired it with like even more immobilized, like say Lando, Corellian spiking things. So,
Yeah.
maybe there's something there. Maybe, you pair with Lando, Han, Sabine, I think you're cooking because now you've got card manipulation on top of everything. It's a very rebel list. It's going to make your opponent hate playing the game because
Lando's Sabine Grogu.
yeah,
Just max it
There you
out.
go.
there it is. Max it out. We have two. Now we have two amazing operatives who are both wearing Beskar
Yeah,
and
Din's
are
also immobilized plus Grogu also immobilized.
yeah. He has a
Does
latent
he have
power, can
one of them?
immobilize. Yeah,
If
Jeez.
you roll a surge,
if you roll a 6,
um,
yeah, out of
one
6,
in 6 chance.
yeah.
Does
No,
Mando immobilize or just
Mando
or
has Amban
Din?
rifle.
Yeah, does
yeah,
that have immobilize on it?
it does. I don't know why you wouldn't take the spear though.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have this
Because
because this is so
immobilize
Here
relevant.
too.
we go. Amban versus Spear. Here we
So
go.
so the spear does not have immobilize.
Uh-huh.
No.
Obviously, mobilize is a great thing, but the spear makes Din do the thing he wants to do better. And so that's why I'm Team Spear because it's better dice and duelist is so much better than lethal. It's
Mm.
so much better. And so I think you take the spear because I at least for me when I'm taking Din, I'm not trying to be like, all right, let me run into this unit and let me like immobilize it. I want to kill it, right? I want to get rid of it. I want to burn it up and then I want to run over and flamethrower the next thing, right? That's my plan when I'm playing Din. And so I'm going to take the spear because I think the spear lets him accomplish that goal better.
Well, again, it's also speaking of economy, right? Where lethal costs an aim that you aren't going to spend for the effect. Duelist
Mhm.
costs an aim where you get the effect and the pierce. So there's another argument there for the spear
Whose
because
lethal are we talking about? The rifle
uh
doesn't have lethal.
He has lethal on his vibro knife.
yeah, on
Okay.
the Vibro knife. Yeah.
So I presumably, now you may want to split fire with his pistol because it's versatile. But even in that case, the pistol's lethal, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what you're doing with Din when you're in melee, if you're double attacking melee or if you're shooting out, your other weapon is going to have lethal, whether it's the vibro knife or the pistol. And so and his dice pool again. If you're doing the vibro knife and the amban, it's 5 surging black, which is not consistent. You're gonna have times where you hit 4 and 5, and you're gonna have times where you hit 1. And then so if you had the red dice, you get some increased consistency, and then you also get to do a reroll. So it's value city.
Yeah,
Value City.
I've been on team yeah,
That's
Value
where I
Town.
try to live.
Yeah, we live in Value Town. Population Nathan. Yeah.
Population Din Spear.
Didn't
Yeah.
spear. Well, hey, I mean, like, if you can, what's the worst spear shot I ever saw? Like 11 red, like something
Oh, because the
horrendous.
flamer. Well, we
Yeah,
got super
and
squads now.
yeah, super squads. Yeah, like Din plus Flamer is just disgusting, and it's piercing Flamer, which is like that actually makes him perfect against freaking clone squads, clone super squads.
Let's actually make a dent in them.
Yeah, that could actually like take out half of it
It can like
probably on
take out
a
the
good roll.
squad portion. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
it into a regular unit.
yeah. But hey, that's super damaging. Whatever you do.
Right.
And it's Pierce 2, isn't it? If you can get it to work out that way.
If you use the vibro
the
knife and the
lethal.
spear, it can be pierced too.
It can
If
be
you have
pierced.
2 aims. Because
Okay.
you
He
can
only has Arsenal too, so he has to choose between flamethrower and the other
Gotcha.
two.
Yeah.
I haven't
Can't use
played
all
Din in a
three.
while.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
you couldn't get pierced 2 on the flamer, sadly.
I'm
Yeah.
staring at it right now. It's the only reason I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't play Din ever.
Yeah, Pierce 1 plus
Nice.
the
You
Flamer. I mean,
should.
I forget who I was
I'm
talking
not a
to.
believer.
Speaking of Pierce and speaking of economics, right? Someone was telling me that like Pierce is like equivalent to 3 hits. I forget what that
Against
math
surging
is.
red, that's a bit of a simplification. But against surging red, Pierce is kind of like having 3 extra hits.
I can see
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Because one surging red defensive save is 3 effective wounds.
Right.
Right, because it's 2/3.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
It's
Every 3 hits averages 1 wound.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it's a 2/3 save. Got it.
So.
2 against red saves.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I was having this conversation in the context of B2 HAs, the rocket,
Okay.
because we were talking about like blast taking away cover versus like dug in and things like that, and that's like me and a friend who plays CIS competitively are looking at super squads with B2 Haas again because it's like okay, well if dug in becomes a thing, blast is going to be super blast is going to be super important. We like having blast anyway because we don't want our super squad blocked by a randomly good cover roll, and we don't have Pierce because we're B2s. So what's the next best thing we have? We have blast.
We should start talking about core heavies because
Yeah,
that's a very important class of upgrade.
absolutely. What
Yes,
kind
it
of core
is.
heavies?
Yes,
What
it
kind of
is.
I'm none of the
He's
stuff
John's
I
getting
plays has
skeptical.
any good core. That's why.
That's it's an important. There's lots of lists where the core
Yeah.
heavies are very.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
nothing in my lists.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so okay, let's start there. What are your lists that don't have core heavies? Because that is a legitimate choice.
Okay.
And what makes you not take core heavies?
So
B1 spam.
B1 spam. Republic when you're not doing big squads. If you're not doing big squads, like you have plenty of other things to fill your 1,000 points very quickly between commandos and arcs. No reason to downgrade to inferior clone heavy weapon.
Okay, so you're saying you're getting more. I mean, we keep using this word. It wasn't on purpose, but you're getting more value putting those points on your beefier
Triple
units that
commando.
are
Yep.
triple command. Okay,
Or
yeah,
arcs.
that's a super solid choice.
Yoda.
And then your naked clones, they're expensive for a naked unit, but they do provide a lot of utility for the army. I mean,
Two.
giving those surges for your expensive units is worth its weight in gold.
They're still 2 courage. They still don't die easy. And if I don't have arcs, then they're normally going to have my medics on them as well. So they're 5 dice, not 4.
Oh, okay. And then you heal the commandos.
Yep. Or heal,
Yeah.
commandos, Yoda, Bad Batch. Yeah, anyone you can.
Right. And so that, I mean, that's another great example. You're taking the medic instead of a heavy. They're about the same points. Heavies are a couple points more.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, a commando brought back to life is, in your view, worth more than a shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
the shotgun does slap. But I don't, because what I use those core for is not to run at the enemy. I use them for token generation in the back, for scoring the objectives where I don't want to have to stand in, where I don't have to want to waste the big units in. And adding a range 2 heavy weapon definitely doesn't help them do that. Adding a range 3, if there was a good one, maybe, but
Yeah, that's great points though, because you're kind of hitting everything we're talking about. You have a function in mind for your core, which is hang out in the back, sit on objectives, generate tokens for my heavy hitters, and a medic is going to do that job much better than a shotgun. Because you're not using the core primarily in an offensive capacity. So yeah, that's a
even
great
then,
example.
5 black dice does tend to deal more wounds than people expect.
Right, with a surge access for sure.
It's a good flex. It's a good flex option.
But that's a great point that Nathan brought up too. Is it's sort of like, and I think I'm collecting this from what both John and Nathan are saying, is that like the offensive efficiency boost is not worth the cost, because I'm not really using those core as my primary offense, because my offense comes from the real hitters like the commandos, like arcs, like Bad Batch. And not to hard derail the conversation, but just blew my mind that I think Bad Batch can get tokens from Luminous. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh, gross. Okay.
Yeah.
This blew my mind.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about them in Guard.
Yeah, and then of course guidance, Bad Batch.
Well, yeah, I mean you're only getting a move and
a name,
but
moving a name, but yeah, it's still a name you wouldn't have had otherwise.
It's a neat thing to do during their 3-pip, because
I was about to say
and 2 more aims.
Yeah, it's like you thought Bad Batch was over here. No, they're on the other side of the board
over here
now.
because I got 3 speed, 3 moves
with 6 aims and 4 surges. Let's go.
And steady.
Right. Yeah.
Reliable
let's not forget.
Or precise 2.
Okay. Anywho, to bring it back to what we were saying, is like it's this matter of like, is the offensive juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And for the shotgun, it is, because it's a melee to 2 red, possibly with surge access, piercing, like it's hyper consistent. So you want it to be that's cool. You're cool paying 23 for that. I think that's 23. 22. Okay, so as opposed to say like the Z6, which is 6 white, and it's sort of like aims kind of suck on this, and
for the same cost,
no pierce, same cost.
Yeah.
What am I doing? You kind of ask yourself that.
Yeah.
When you put that in your army, how
the
the
6
mighty
white and 2 red like average the same, but the pierce.
Right, the pierce and the melee
use. And well, oh yeah, and it works in melee, and there's the consistency.
Yeah.
Rolling 2 red and almost knowing for certain that you're probably going to get at least one of those, probably 2. At half the time, more if you have surging. Versus a Z6, you're like, there's a solid chance I get 6 blanks here, and that doesn't feel good.
I mean, I tried medic Z6s again, and they sucked on ice. Like it was not good.
No.
Medic shotguns are the way for sure.
I played against someone who used a really interesting clone Z6 build. They had a Z6,
Uh huh.
they had a specialist, they had O push, and they had scopes, and they had a lat. So
Okay.
the end of the round, lat comes out. Troopers hop out, and they get pretty far up and they shoot range 3, so they only need to be range 4. They can be range 4 away from whatever they're about to hit, so they can be relatively safe hopping out of the lat.
Hmm.
Lat gives him surges, so they're surged to high heaven. Pops out, taps all the upgrades, and he's throwing 11 dice with 2 precise aims and a buttload of surges. And he just wiped something. There's a unit that was just, I don't remember if he completely killed it or like knocked it down to like a wounded or something. I was like, holy crap. But that was, and it was an expensive unit and he invested a lot into it. I don't know if it's like the way, but he like had a plan, right? He had like a vision
Right.
and he executed it. It was like, I'm going to put all these things because this alpha strike I'm going to do at the end of the round is going to be a really big deal. And he got good returns on it. He totally just left this smoldering crater where one of my units had been. So it's like, yeah, that's, he wanted to make the Z6 work, and it was terrifying. It was not, was not nearly as terrifying the turn afterward when it didn't have the aims anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, again, he had his game plan and he executed it. It was cool.
Well, it's like the I don't know if the audience is even familiar with Rube Goldberg anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like those machines where it's like it does it's like overly complex, and then it just results in like this the practical effect is we're gonna move this like block of this hunk of coal 1 inch or something. I don't know,
Right.
but it's one of these sort of like it's like you said, like those after the big combo went off, right? The rest of it's like they're doing nothing for the rest of the game practically.
They're
So
averaging 4 or 5 hits depending on their surge
yeah, I mean it's
access.
not horrible, but it's also like not the quality that you're kind of looking
Right.
for most of the game. Like
Yeah,
certainly
it's like,
Well, you
it's
could
like
get better quality for less.
yeah,
yeah. And,
yeah.
and in fairness, and I don't remember if this happened or if I just killed the thing too quickly or what. That is the kind of thing where you could recover him, and now you've gotten 2 aims for 1 action, and they're both precise. So there is ways to continue to derive value out of it. Again, I'm not sure there's a scenario where that thing pops out alpha something and then has the chance to just like recover and shoot and sit there. But like,
Yeah.
there's options. It was something interesting, and what I admired was that he clearly there was a synergy he had in mind, right? And so I think if he had just done any one of those, if it was just a Z6 with a specialist, or just with scopes, or just with offensive push, it wouldn't be interesting. But he committed and he put all of it together, and that's what made it something to consider. I think totally flying off in a different direction here, but I think another good example of a situation where I would put heavies in a core unit. And Dave, I know that you've since have opened your mind more to this way of thinking, but
Mhm.
is E5S's on
Ah,
B1s, because there's a lot of people that are running naked B1s, and that's totally fine. You get a lot of value for 38 points. There's 6 wounds. They can sit on objectives. They don't get suppressed. It's like and order control, right? It's great value. The reason I often put E5S's in my list is because of actually something John said earlier about filling a void. What I was finding is that I would construct these lists that would have like 2 or 3 heavy hitters. It would have like Dooku, it have like ion spiders, and then like aquas. It would have a few concentrated bursts of firepower. And the first round or two, you're holding those things to the end. But then as we are getting later into the game, once the firefight happens, right, you try to use your big guns early, right, to maximize attrition. But then there would be all these situations where it'd be, oh my gosh, Op Luke's running away and he's on 2 health. And or there's this unit that's off and it's got 1 wound, and I just, oh my gosh, I need to do 1 more wound. By putting heavies on all my B1s, I didn't make them that much more expensive. They are the same cost as a naked phase as a naked clone. Now they're 56. Um, but they can now serve. I know the burden of clones. Um, but so if they do just sit in the back and sit on a point, it's like I don't really feel that bad if a 56 unit is holding down an objective the whole game. That's not a problem at all. But now they can fill this role, which is all these units running around on 1, 2 wounds. Now I just got all these B1s. They're like boop, 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 just picking them off, and it basically it gave me a source of consistent firepower throughout my entire round. So and there was never a point where my opponent was like, "Oh my gosh, now he shot all his guns. I can relax." It's like, nope, I've always got another B1 E5S, which is not a sledgehammer, but it's 8 dice critical one. It's like I'm gonna get 2 to 3 hits most of the time. It's like that'll wear you down.
There's two things that came up for me. One is I was nostalgia tripping back to the ancient days where you could snipe a box carrier with a sniper from across the board. Those are the olden days. But more to the point, yeah, I'm still ambivalent. I've been the latest thing I played was no E5Ss, and then I played against someone with E5Ss, and I definitely felt what you described, which is the pressure's never off. Because there's sometimes where it's like you're in the round and it's like, okay, I get another activation, I can breathe. It's like, no, you can never breathe because there's always an E5S, there's always a Geonosian, there's always a Droidica, there's always something that's gonna hit you for something significant, especially against your own squad of naked B1s, where it's like, well, if they can hit me at all, I'm cooked. I don't have a defense save basically. But yeah, I mean, on the other hand, it's like I buy 3 of them and it's 54 points.
It adds up if you do it in mass,
It adds up
which you're
quick.
gonna do. If you're gonna
Yeah,
do it, you want to do it across the
right.
board
So
typically.
it's not a half measure. I have to do 4 or 5
Yeah,
to really get my value, and then I have to be willing to like say, okay, I'm comfortable with playing with 900 points for the rest of my list because I don't expect those B1s to be heroes.
no,
Because they cannot be.
right.
They're B1s. They just can't do it. They can't like roll saves and tag an objective and be alive. They just won't. It just won't happen. I mean,
Right.
it might happen, but it doesn't happen.
They're
For
there
all
to.
the engineer in me says it doesn't happen. The mathematician says that's not entirely true. But that's kind of the that's kind of the rub there. Um, but yeah, I definitely have felt what you just described, which is the pressure's not off, and then from a list building perspective, I have to be cognizant of how much points I'm sinking into it, especially if I want to get to like 13x and still have my big stuff. And that's something I was looking at in that holocron list that I brought up about half an hour ago. Um, I was looking at his list, and it's like, wow, this list is really short on upgrades. We're talking like double magna, triple magna, 2 of them no heavy, which is like, whoa, what is that? And so I looked at that, and it's like, wow, he has 1 electro whip, no upgrades on the magnas, and I'm like, why did he do this? And it's like, oh, it's so he could get to 13 acts with Dooku and Grievous. That's exactly why he needed to give Dooku and Grievous enough rope to function.
And so he felt that the increased act count in that situation was more valuable than the upgrades would have been.
Yeah,
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 that's a fair strategy.
absolutely.
And
And
they're
then
commander meatbags. Those guys, like
Right.
all the guardian. That's practically extra health.
yeah, and they all have
Oh
red.
yeah. Yeah. It's almost literally extra health. I'd argue it's in some cases better than a medic because you don't have to like wait for the medic to get there to heal him. It's like you
Right.
instantly
Yeah.
have the value. And the naked ones you feel a little bit better about it. I mean, certainly if you're the Electro Whip, you're still going to guardian most of the time. But now you've sort of invested in that piece. It's 100 points, and so you sort of want it to do something offensively if you've given it the whip, which
Right.
certainly it's able to do. And so if you burn that entire 100 points just guarding Dooku or mostly guarding Dooku, it feels a little bad. If it's a naked guy and he's giving you activation padding and he essentially makes Dooku invincible, Dooku and Grievous, he makes him essentially invincible. Well, that could be worth the points.
Magnas are kind of like Wookiees too, because it's like they're like naked Wookiees. Because
Mm.
in the same department, it's sort of like, yeah, this unit is like 72 points, but man, it surges in melee, it surges on range, and like the range guns are not that bad, like 3 black, 3
No,
white with Surge, if you can get it in a decent spot or get them out of cover, like that will kill stuff. And it's only 72. So
that's
there's reasons to take it. There's some justifications, and I mean
Right.
maybe this player did the math. Maybe he was like, yeah, maybe they looked at it and like, well, on a per point basis, maybe I can pull back this value offensively and defensively. And it's like this unit is just on its face. It's like, well, if I maybe I don't want to go this far, but I'll just put it out there. 72 points on this unit. Maybe I can subtract 8 points if I have retinue, because guess what? That name is worth 8 points if it comes from an electro binocular. It's worth 4 points if it comes from a comms electric, or comes from a emergency transponder. So maybe that unit is actually worth 68 or even less, because, or maybe I'm actually paying even less because I'm getting this extra value,
I see. Yeah,
right?
you're
So like
getting the
like you're
tokens.
getting the
Right.
tokens. So like the physical body, this might be again like a Rube Goldberg thing, but like you're what you're paying for, you're getting this added value of like having the retinue token on top
Right.
of
Yeah.
whatever you paid for the body itself and the dice pool.
This is this is a halfway tangent. It's not really. It's kind of on topic of what we're talking about. But I think when people are talking about the value for a unit, I think it's easy to underestimate the keywords that are on the unit. And so like I'll give you like an example. It's like let's take ARC troopers.
Hmm.
They're four models and they're 70 points. And so I'm not saying the medic is a bad choice in arcs at all. But so people look at that and they're like, well, that's 20 points, and it's basically two bodies, right? Just because it's the body itself and it's the heal, so it's like half of what an arc trooper is worth, and an arc trooper is worth 70. So you're getting 35 points of value for only 20 points. It's like the steal of the century. And I think that oversimplifies it a little bit, because in the arcs, you're not just paying for the bodies, and sure, each body is a wound and each body is a gun, but you're deriving a lot of value out of tactical. And if you were to double the amount of arc trooper bodies in the unit through some kind of upgrade, you wouldn't be doubling the amount of tactical, right? And
Hmm.
so buying that extra body is not buying you any extra tactical. And so there are sometimes and so retinue is like another great one. It's like you look at the extra body on the Magna Guard, and maybe for a point for point basis it might look like a good deal, but a lot of the value of the Magna Guard is that retinue, and that's not getting any more efficient. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Yeah.
something that people should factor into their calculations when they're trying to figure out, okay, like what's the value on this extra personnel or heavy or whatever that I'm taking. Don't forget about what are the intrinsic values of the keywords, and do those keywords scale with what you're doing or not? Like
Yeah.
sharpshooter scales with the unit. So it's like that's value. Tactical, that doesn't scale if you had more
Right.
bodies.
Right.
Charge, impervious, scale, scout, sharpshooter
Right?
all feel like they scale. But you're right, tactical doesn't. I'd even argue the courage doesn't.
Mm,
When
Right.
you could put, in theory, four more bodies on one unit, or you could just pay for a second unit. That's now two
Right.
Right.
units that have to get suppressed instead of one.
Exactly.
Right, right. So if you get hit with two suppression at range 3,
Yeah.
you're still stuck, and it
Not to
doesn't matter.
mention like just
This
more actions from more units.
I'm gonna make people's
Right,
eyes. I'm
right.
gonna make people's eyes glaze over, but I'm gonna say it. My new favorite word in wargaming: amortization. That's my new
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
amortization. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about here. Amortization. The
Define amortization for us, David.
the distribution of cost over a unit, whether it is positively or negatively amortized. So
Mm.
units that upgrade, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, upgrades that do not scale negatively amortize. That means you're paying once and then it doesn't increase, because you're paying once for this, and as you pay for more, that upgrade never improves. But if
Okay.
you pay once and then that unit, then you get more of that thing as the unit grows, as you pay more. Um, then you're going to benefit. That's a positive amortization. So, and hopefully people can comment and tell me I'm
Right.
wrong. I love comment bait like that. But
But
anyway,
what's a
yeah.
good upgrade that would scale? Besides like the keywords necessarily, like what are some upgrades that scale with unit size, I guess?
Mhm.
The old grenades used to do it, but they don't do it anymore.
All right, now it's one per.
Now it's one per unit, so it has no. So the more you can pay for more people and pay for that upgrade once, and that's it. So there's no amortization there.
All right.
I'm gonna say, kind of riffing off something that was already said, but I think if you're paying, let's say you've got a fleet unit with the shotgun, paying for the officer, gives you that extra courage. I'd say
Mhm.
that's something that kind of scales. Like you're getting more value for that extra courage, the more expensive the unit is.
Right. Ergo, the more shots I take over the course of the game because my courage did not prevent me from move shooting.
Right. It's like I'd much rather pay for an extra courage on a unit that has a shotgun than one that doesn't have a shotgun. I
Recon
don't.
intel. You could say
Yeah.
recon
Oh
intel.
yeah, definitely.
You're
Yeah. Yeah.
moving more bodies for a cheaper cost. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
100%.
Getting more
100%.
weapons closer.
the
Yeah. It's like
B2
Yeah, it's like if my game plan is like definitely 100% want to get my range 4 shot off on round 1, it's like you're much better off putting that 8 points on the Death Trooper than you are on the Storm, because the Death Trooper, that offense is more powerful, and so you're getting, yeah,
Right.
but the value of that recon intel scales with the value of the offense that you're
Right.
putting it on.
Right. Sorry, I interrupted you, John. But the B2HA does the same thing. The more dice I put behind
Oh,
this blast keyword, it's like perfect, right?
Yeah,
that's a great
that's
That is
example.
why
that
you
is a,
set
that
up
actually scales
B2R.
perfectly with the size of the unit because it removes cover for every single hit that
Yeah.
you can produce. So you pay for blast and then you upgrade that unit as far as you can go because that way you get the most value out of that one upgrade.
So any sharpshooter unit
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
scales with the more you could increase their firepower, then
Mhm.
it's covered behind sharpshooter.
Right. And it's interesting because that wasn't the case with the way cover used to work. It used to be sharpshooter like was a fixed value. You're like, I get one hit out of this, right? But yeah, with the way cover currently works, the more hits you have, the more your opponent is potentially benefiting from cover. And so yeah, sharpshooter is, yeah, it's going to scale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could make dug in a potentially dangerous upgrade. In fact, if you spam it, because there's like a direct counter in your opponent's list to this, which is blast and sharpshooter. And the more you
Yeah.
take dug in, the worse it will get if they bring that counter upgrade. Because now it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
because now it's like, oh, this thing that I've paid a lot for this thing that's being completely neutralized by this sort of rock paper scissors kind of thing that's going on. With my opponent having blast and sharpshooter a lot, so just some food for thought there for sure.
We should talk about, when do you, let's say you have multiple copies of the same unit and you've got kind of well, I mean, it can be any type of upgrade. It could be a heavy or it could be something smaller. When do you take that upgrade on everything, and when do you say nope, I only need this on one of them or some of them?
Duplicating effects, so an HQ uplink on a B1, for example.
Oh, so you'd only take one.
You'd only take one because you if you position correctly, you trigger that once and it duplicates across the entire army.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's a good example.
Things that are doing like riskier alpha strikes, because you're not likely to get more than one in before the others. Like you only get to activate first once, and then your opponent gets to respond and attack your other thing.
Right.
I have like fleets in mind for this. Um, you want to attack with these big fleets, but if you have like three of them, then unless you're really good at hiding them or bring double buffs just to hide them, like Brian, um, then you get a good attack with one, and then your opponent gets to respond and attack the next one before it does.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a good example. I thought about with Geonosians. Something I had thought about trying before but never really got around to was using Grievous with Ruthless on the really big Geo squads to get like a really strong turn one alpha. And Ruthless, it all you need is the unit to have an order, right? It doesn't need to come from the card. So like if you have like Sunfok in there, right, you potentially get like three, some maybe more Geos that have order tokens. And so you give them the squad, give them the heavy weapon. I'm just gonna have this crazy alpha where I can triple move and then shoot, and they've all got two surges. But exactly what you said is, it makes a big difference. If I have three Geonosians, with that third to last one, I'm gonna triple move it. I'm gonna shoot, and then my opponent's still gonna have activations left, so they're just gonna come out and they're gonna paste it. And I better hope that whatever I shot, I did more damage than what the geo was worth in one attack, which I probably didn't. Right? You're probably not going to do 100 points worth of damage in one geo shot, right? And so in that situation, I kind of thought about it more. I was like, if I want to do that strategy, I think you would take one really big geo unit, just to have something that you go at the end. I think for
Yeah.
exactly what you're describing.
Yeah, that sort of I think I've heard it referred to as time sensitivity. So it's like if I have 2 units, then my opponent can respond to the first one because it by its very nature it has to go second to last. It can't go last. So
Right.
aquas are a good example because usually people bring two. Um, Usually you're like at 13, or you're at 12. I mean, because aquas are expensive. So 12
Yeah.
is pretty good for aquas, honestly,
Yeah.
because they're 93 each. So again, like that first aqua unit, you have to be pretty calculated with how you put it down because there's going to be a counter shot coming, and the aquas are a big target because your opponent knows that having that much health of aqua kind of puts them on a clock. If they can't burn through it efficiently, then they're never going to kill it, and they've wasted all their time shooting it. So there are some mitigating factors because it's like some units it's like, well, yeah, they're really fragile. It's totally worth shooting them because that unit downgrades the more casualties it takes. Aqua's not so much. They take
Right.
every 3 wounds they downgrade, but these are sort of like other factors. I'm thinking about the Geo example where it's like I'm losing 2 dice for every mini that I lose. So
Right.
suddenly it's like my efficiency slides into the trash the more
Right.
things I lose, and I have to be very careful not to upgrade it. And I mean, like I was thinking in the Supreme Commander example, you have to have a wound free. You have to be comfortable with dealing that unit a wound
Mm-hmm.
to get that. And like I think B2s are comfortable because guess what? They don't downgrade that fast.
Right.
They're also cheaper and they're also more consistent with surge access. So
Mm-hmm.
if you like ruthless aim shoot, like that is disgusting because they're gonna have 2 surges and an aim.
Right.
And you know, if you're able to like if you're able to then like, I don't know, repair it or just be cool with having taken that wound for the sake of the shot, like that's really really useful. And I mean, I've tried to do it with Poggle. It's a little tough because if your opponent is wise, they won't let you Poggle. They just won't let you do it. Um,
Right.
when I say let you Poggle, what I mean is let you do Poggle 4 pip to restore B2s across the army. They're
Right.
probably not going to let you do that. You could, in theory, make it so that you could like rotate them in and out and try to like force them to spread their damage out, but that's just a lot of like it's a lot of overhead.
It's a
And
little harder to do with B2s because they're close range. It's a little
yeah,
harder to do the rotation where you.
right.
Yeah.
In theory, you could dive a wounded one behind your aqua wall and then put the other one forward and like do all kinds of shenanigans with aqua droid line of sight
Yeah.
blocking to make that
Right.
happen. But that's a whole like that's magical Christmas land that doesn't happen in games. It could happen. Is it likely to happen? No, because there's going to be other demands on the scenario from the scenario. I mean,
Yeah. So I've got a bit of a possible characterization here. This is obviously not like a perfect rule, but you guys tell me what you think about this.
sure.
I think most of the time, offensive upgrades, you're okay if you only put them on one or some of your units. Defensive upgrades, I think you got to put them across the board to get value. So an example would be, let's say you have, I mean, this is a silly example. So let's take like vets, okay? Let's say you just got extra points and you're like, this vet's got a training slot and I want it to be an offensive piece. I'm going to give it offensive push. But I have this other vet, I'm not going to give it offensive push. I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with that if that's what you want to do. It's not like it's not like there's any kind of a problem with doing that. It's just, one of your vets will have a little bit more of a punch and the other one won't. But now let's say you're doing dug in and you're like, okay, I have these vets. I want them to sort of be like my defensive wall. I'm going to put them forward a little bit, and so I'm going to give this one dug in, but I don't have points to give the other one dug in. The problem is, if I'm your opponent, I'm just going to shoot the one that doesn't have dug in, and so I'm just not going to bother with the other one, right? And so if the idea is you're going to have a vet line that is sort of going to fight the middle, and you want him to be a little bit tankier, you're going to have to put you're going to have to put the upgrade on all of them.
I wouldn't strictly call it a problem to not put them on all of them. Just know, like, you could use that fact against your opponent. Like, you know that these will be the target, the ones that don't have defense. So you have to play them differently, right? You could be more
That's fair.
aggressive, more brazen, even with the super defensive ones, and more cagey with the others.
Yeah.
And, mess with their head a
Okay.
little bit, make
Yeah.
them overreach to try and get the easier targets while exposing themselves to the tougher targets.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
There's definitely things you could do.
I think I see what you're trying to do, Nathan. Is this idea that like, um,
Weakest link kind of
yeah, weakest
scenario.
link, and my opponent has
Yeah.
a choice, so I don't want to give my opponent a good choice. So therefore,
Right.
I need to spread out my defensive upgrades across everything, so my opponent doesn't have a choice. Like, because you never in war games you never want to, like, just like you never want to give up a free shot to your opponent, you never want to give them an obvious choice.
Yeah. I guess maybe reconciling the 2 points. If you don't, let's say you want these defensive upgrades and you don't have the points to put them on everyone. Understand that the ones that don't have the defense upgrades are going to have to function differently.
Yeah.
Now, if your game plan is I have all these rebel troopers, SX-13s with frags,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to give some of them prepared supplies as an emergency trigger for their nimble. But if they're all doing the same thing and they're all running forward to the middle, which is probably what you want to do with those units, and again, only half of them have prepared supplies, it's like, yeah, your opponent's probably just going to hit the ones that don't have it, or you're going to have to work
So
really
you
hard
run
to
those ones
mitigate it.
last, right? You throw
Right, yeah.
your prepared supplies in first. Like there are always at least some things you could do.
Yeah, some way to mitigate. Or I think probably the reverse. You take the ones that don't have prepared supplies, you activate them first so that they use their agile and get their dodges.
Right.
Right.
Well,
We have
if
to set it
prepared
up.
supplies is when they shoot you, it triggers, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it
you
depends.
spend it
Like,
during
if you're
the
already in
cover.
range to shoot, then yeah, like, get the agile ones first.
Right.
In my head, we weren't in range to fire yet, but I see.
Oh, you're talking about moving forward.
I
Yeah.
get what you're saying too, though. So
Yeah. But yeah, and then if you're not in danger and then you're moving into danger, yeah, move the
yeah,
tanky ones first.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
All right, we've gone full circle now. We're back to the rebel troopers and the SX-21s. So
Back to the-
Yeah, there you
that
go.
might be a good indicator that we can wrap it up there.